afternoon, Cross Timbers. Today is November 17th, 2015. This is Texan TV News from Tarleton State University campus in Stephenville, Texas, and I'm Mark Smith. In today's headlines, Morgan Mill gears up for its annual Community Thanksgiving event. The U.S. governors threaten to block Syrian refugees into their states. 2 zebras have been returned to their homes after escaping on Sunday, and sporting events ramp up security after the recent Paris attacks. Also, Dan, aka Dan Matthews, will be speaking tonight on his documentary about meeting his biological family for the first time. And the head football coach of Missouri will retire at the end of the season. In regional news, Morgan Mill ISD is gearing up for its annual Community Thanksgiving event from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Friday, November 20th in the Morgan Mill School Gym. This event has been occurring well over 20 years, and last year there were 900 plates served, including 100 Fort Hood soldiers will be brought to Morgan Mill to enjoy the hot Thanksgiving meal, along with desserts that teachers and staff will prepare over this week. Some of the students will help decorate for the event and help serve the food, while other younger students will sing a couple of songs for the guests. For more information on the Community Thanksgiving, contact Dean Edwards at 254-968-4921. In international news, the Associated Press reports that many U.S. governors are threatening to block efforts to allow Syrian refugees into their states. After the attacks on Paris, many governors are afraid that terrorists might use the refugees as cover to sneak across the borders. Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered his state's refugee resettlement program not to accept any more Syrians. We now go to the Associated Press for more.
So the governors are concerned, obviously, in light of Paris, that there's security concerns with people being brought to the U.S. from the Middle East as part of this grand refugee program. There's 70,000 annually refugees are allowed into the United States, and it's a bit of a misnomer to say they're just coming here, right? The refugee process is such that you're invited to become a refugee and move to the United States. And then you start the process of resettlement with a variety of aid agencies, and they pick, the aid agencies in coordination with the government, pick where you're going to go. Certainly it's a political issue if nothing else. You have governors saying, listen, I want to protect my citizens, I want to protect Americans in general, and I don't want to bring in or allow to be brought in a potential terrorist. Is that person in this group of people who are arriving in the United States? When we talk about refugees from Syria coming into the United States, what you're talking about is people being invited, for good or bad. They've won the right, if you will, or been granted the right to move to the United States. So 2 to 3 year process minimum for vetting and such. Generally saying just no does not appear to be within their authority. It's the State Department, it's these refugee agencies working with the State Department that selects locations based largely on economics. So are there job opportunities? Because these folks have to be finding work shortly after their arrival. Are there language opportunities? Are there other social networks within those communities? Ultimately, though, as the Committee for Refugees and Immigrants told me today, you can't stop somebody from moving to your city or your state. Freedom of movement. If you're resettled in New York and you decide, I don't like New York, I think I'd like to move to Michigan. Move to Michigan.
In campus news, tonight from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. in Business 176, the Speaker Symposium presents Dan, aka Dan Matthews, in the lecture Q&A. This is My Story, a compelling short documentary about a Korean-American adoptee who seeks his birth mother and gets a huge surprise. Dan is a popular hip-hop artist who performs regularly in Korea and the U.S. He recently produced this documentary series detailing his very personal journey with meeting his biological family for the first time, including an identical twin brother he never knew about. Dan also released a companion full-length album, Stuntman, which chronicles his experience with adoption, addiction, self, and identity. Also, the Department of Fine Arts will present a concert featuring jazz ensembles 1 and 2 under the direction of Greg Ball on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. in the auditorium of the Clyde H. Wells Fine Arts Center. The box office will open 1 hour before the concert. Tickets are $5 or free with a Tarleton ID, and all seating is general admission. In national news, just days after the deadly attacks in Paris, sporting events across the nation this weekend have ramped up security at their stadiums. To make people feel more safe, extra police officers have been placed in and around the stadium. For a glimpse of this weekend's scene, we turn to the Associated Press.
What happened with Paris, kind of like, I'm worried right now.
I trust that our city is going to take care of us, and I feel that we're going to be safe.
Our thoughts and our prayers are with the family and friends of those attacked last night in Paris. And we stand united as two great nations during this difficult time. Please join us now as we rise for a moment of silence to honor these victims.
We have to take time to reflect and pray for those families that has been affected by terrorism.
Police in Philadelphia say that 2 zebras have been returned to their homes after escaping on Sunday. The zebras were seen running through the streets of Philadelphia after escaping the circus that was in town. There were no injuries to the animals or bystanders. In sports news, Gary Pinkel, head football coach of Missouri, says that he will retire at the end of the season after he was diagnosed with lymphoma. For highlights on the press conference, we turn to the Associated Press. And now for today's weather, courtesy of the National Weather Service. There will be a slight chance of thunderstorms today with a high of 67 degrees and a low of 44 degrees, with wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour. Today's broadcast was produced by Renee Warner, Caitlin Shaw, Jordan Palmer, and Austin Farrar. Don't forget to tell your friends about us and become a fan of Texan TV News on Facebook. I'm Mark Smith. Tune in tomorrow for the latest news from Tarleton State University campus in Stephenville, Texas.